Welcome to the Influencer Show with your host, Trishawn Ben Salmi.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Influencer Show, where we interview people who can help influence the way that you look at life as a whole. I'm your host, E7, and today we are joined with a very special guest. So if you'd like to introduce yourselves to listeners and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon, good evening to all those, or good morning, whatever time zone that you're listening to Trey Sean's podcast. But I'm Dr. Toby Bailey. I'm the chairman, founder, and CEO of the Borg Global Banking Group, which includes Borg Investment Bank, Borg Capital in the UK, Borg International Bank in St. Kitts Islands in the Caribbean, and Borg Mining Bank in Africa, and Borg Mining Bank in the Americas, including North and South America. And then last but not least, Borg University.
That is absolutely amazing. And that is actually the reason why we are here today. And why don't you share to the listeners why Borg University is going to be set up?
Well, amazingly, you forgot to say that you are one of my ambassadors.
Yeah.
It's a passion that I've created as my mission, to teach and educate the future. And the future, of course, is anyone, that spawned, since the baby boomers. We have Generation X, Y, and Z, which you're a part of. And we, of course, know that there's a certain bravery and fearlessness, that these X, Y, and Zers have. And people like myself, we'd be fools not to grab a hold of that and be able to utilize that strength, that energy. When many presidents, go and look for new voters, they don't look for the old folks. They look for the grassroots changers. When there's protests around the world, who's out there protesting? You don't see old folks out there. You see the young ones out there, because they basically don't just take your word for it, that they want to know the truth. And what we want to do at Borg University is to teach the truth, teach the skill sets that are there. Many universities teach a broad course of things and give you a 2 and 4 and 8-year degree, but we could teach you within a matter of months, weeks, the 6 key ingredients of success in business. One is business knowledge. One is financial knowledge. Third is communication. Then we have negotiation. Then we have leadership, and then we have technology. All those things mixed together, all those skill sets in your toolbox, your resource set, allows you to be the most successful at anything in life, whether it's in marriage, whether it's in business, whether it's in finance, whether it's in looking for a company to join, whether you're part of a company and you become better, or whether you are now the company itself looking to know how to use your own resources, your own assets with someone like an investment bank that can help you leverage what you have versus borrowing from the bank.
I definitely do believe that those are just so very important. Just being able to, as you say, just being able to fund yourself, being able to sustain yourself, it's just so much more important. It definitely shows that dedication, just how willing you are, and just simply how much you believe in ways that you want to do. And what would you say is the number one reason and number one aim for Borg University?
Interesting. The aim is knowledge. The aim is education. Without education, you're just simply reading words in a book. Without having practical experience, you're just exercising a piece of paper that says, do this. And without the wisdom and experience, can you see real results? Can you give options that you can even give examples of what happened in the past to help you forge in the future? So all those together, are the tools that are needed. So while you may spend $50, $100, $200,000 to get a university degree and still walk away having a part-time job, you can learn special skills from Borg University regardless of your age, regardless of your genre, regardless of your nationality, to be able to understand, recognize, and identify solutions, to be able to bring a project to the table that will allow anyone to make $100, $200, $300,000 a year without even worrying about doing anything more than using your newfound toolkit, your newfound resources, your newfound skill sets in either working with Borg Investment Bank around the world, or with working for your own company, or finding resources that they wonder, how in the world did you figure this out? Well, no, I know how to bring something to the table. And I don't have to be the smartest guy, just the most ingenuity person to find and look for real opportunities. Now, you may say, well, what does it cost to go to your Borg University? Well, we'll be giving away scholarships, but guess what? Only about $3.99 per course. And these courses, 7 or 8 courses, so for under $3,000 US, you now can have a newfound business set that can help you become better at what you do. Can you imagine the possibilities of single parents, will now have scholarships for their children. People can sponsor children. During your podcast, we may even offer scholarships, Trayshawn. Or the fact is, why would you not, want to see a child who has a brightness about them, him or her, to be able to have specialized training that's above even higher education? How can you get higher than higher education? Well, that's where things happen after school, which is experience, wisdom, knowledge. Again, knowledge is power, information is power, and all those things can equal financial prosperity.
I definitely agree. And I think it definitely links back to a quote which actually popped up quite recently about it's not so much about being popular, whereas it's about being well connected. Because in that case, you're then able to do things that only people can dream of because you have those connections. And it links back to the other quote really about resourceful and resourcefulness, just utilizing everything that you have available to you to the best of your ability, really.
Yeah. There you go. Amazingly, because I know you have a penchant for finance, and sometimes you say, well, where can finance take me unless someone hires me that's looking for a financial wizard? It may be good and cute to say, well, I can work with numbers, but why work with numbers if you can't make any money from it? Yeah. Who's going to give me the opportunity to make money from my number crunching? Well, guess what? Borg University can teach what skill sets that you may not have as an opportunity, an opening for you. Where others may not believe in you, Borg does. While others may not be able to support you, Borg can. While others may not be able to compensate you for your ingenuity and your smartness, Borg can. So it becomes a unique situation. Borg meeting a global army of consultants, a global army of project managers, a global army of people that want to run their own businesses one day. Mm-hmm. But we will give you the chance, the opportunity, by you having to do things that no one else can do for you. Why wait for some 40 and 50-year-old person to be a, quote, consultant for a company to meet me and bring an opportunity to the table? Why can't somebody who's a teenager do it? Why can't anybody do it? If they have enough skill set to simply know that there's a problem in their country or an opportunity in their country or anywhere in the world, bring those to the table. Let me finish the deal. And guess what? Whoever brings to the table always eats with me.
Definitely do love that, especially like just simply how it just shows how much you do value each and every last person, really. And I think that's something that isn't seen enough nowadays, because like when it comes to just like work as a whole, people aren't actually given that gratitude, aren't actually given that sort of like just given that recognition as to what it is that they've done. And I think it definitely just plays a huge role in just because like if people were to get recognized for their work, they're constantly going to be pushing for more and seeing how they can simply improve in every way, shape and form.
Right. Can you imagine? I'll give a couple examples, Trayshawn. Look at all the women that take their daughters to beauty pageants. They go to pageants all their lives, all around the country, just to be miss this, miss that. But guess what? They can't make no money off of it. They're just a pretty face, and they just spent all this money and time. or you take a child and take them through gymnastics, and they go to all these little mini Olympics, but they may win a piece of metal, but they don't get a job. But can you imagine putting a fraction of that time into a Borg University education, and you could walk away making money the first month that you get your credentials? You now tell people that I may not be smarter than you, but I have more resources than you do. And I know that this country may have gold or diamonds or a resource. Then why can't I just take a piece of paper saying that, I know you have this, or you're willing to talk to someone named Dr. Bailey about this resource? He can find a way to help you leverage your assets. Oh, really? Well, my advisors didn't know that. Well, but I do. Then all of a sudden, when I close the deal, not if, but when I close the deal, then can you imagine, whoever bought that to me walking away with a check for $50,000 or $100,000? Can you imagine, Trayshawn, your audience, anybody at any age can make off of 1 or 2 transactions a year what most people make in 3 to 5 years? Can you imagine? I call it the vampire effect. Once you get a taste of blood, it tastes good. You can't wait to get the next bite. So once you close one deal, you'll never leave Borg, because it becomes the most effective way of making money, because you don't do nothing more than look for information. And who does most of the programming anymore? The young ones. Who programs games the most? Young ones. Who does all the software development? The younger ones. They do research. So why can't they do the same thing toward the financial side, the business side? Use the technology to their advantage.
I definitely love that, Ria. That's so important. I think that is something that people are just like needing more now than ever. Why would you say that Borg University is needed now more than ever?
More than ever now is because more and more people have lost jobs. They've been laid off, and everyone's become discouraged. And it's not just young ones. It's ones that may have had a job for 20, 30 years. What can they do? Where can they turn? The production of gold and diamonds and oil and gas and resources that companies have is still there. No one knows that they have this hidden asset that can now take them off their grounds. And what better way to do it than to give key education to those that are willing to see that they can be involved in something, not just locally, but globally. Now they can control their own destiny again for as little as $3,000. And if they don't want to do the entire course, then just do one course at a time, or do the whole thing as a package. As a matter of fact, there'll be specific training at the university that's going to really just going to be free. Even for a small subscription of $100 a year, you'll be able to listen to different presentations. That's not so much precise education, but it's more of teasers, to allow you to see what the possibilities can be for you. Can you imagine the possibilities, Trayshawn, of having a $3,000 investment turn into a $200,000 a year job off of simply researching? You now can travel. You can go anywhere you want to in the world. You want to move somewhere else, you can still take your job with you, because this is all done by technology and social media.
Definitely living a location-free life, really. The
Exactly.
are limitless, completely up to you.
Yes. So what this does, it creates a new paradigm shift, in what to do. Instead of doing what's called welfare classes, saying, well, hey, we'll teach you a job skill to be a busboy, a job skill to work inside a manual labor, factory. That may be good, but what happens? What you really need is something that can help you feed yourself for life. That can help you make your own new decisions, give you that new ability to believe more into yourself, and not worry about trusting in what your boss is saying or what this guy is saying. You now can believe in what you're saying in your own heart.
Exactly, definitely. Like, you pretty much have the power. And why don't you share with your listeners why Borg was set up?
Borg was set up, Borg was set up, for the purpose of helping people of all genres. You know, we may think that since I have an African base and you have one, believe it or not, 99% of all humanity, you know, has an African base. You know, back before the great flood of Noah's day, you know, Africa and Europe was fused together, you know, in the Mesopotamian Valley. And that's where everything started. So regardless of whether the flood separated the continents to what they are now, you know, it still is what it is. We're all still from that location. So we don't simply say that we're Africans, but we're part of the global diaspora where every part of humanity rests. So Borg has been set not to become just a certain type of company, but we're a company for the world. And it was done because there's a need. Borg Investment Bank, Trayshawn, is not a bank that lends money. We leverage assets. So when people come say, I have a great idea, I need money. Well, that sounds like a personal problem to me. It's not my problem. You know, once you've done something and you have something, that's when I can come in. I can take what you have and I can replicate it. Why take your money to the bank to get a 2% per year, you know, interest on it, when you can invest that same money with Borg and can make 100% interest per year? That's hard to believe, but we've learned the ways to manipulate money by trading it, by creating banking instruments, and by being in finance. That should really be up your alley, Trayshawn.
Yeah.
But we find unique ways to make existing money make new money. And then by doing so, Borg makes half of that new money and they get to keep their old money and half of the new money at the same time. So that's how an investment bank works. We leverage to where they can help themselves. No more needs to go to the Chinese, the Japanese, the Arabs, the Russians for loans. People can actually fund themselves, finance and fund their own projects through their own assets that they have.
I think that's definitely just so amazing, especially like when I first learned about this, make money off your own money and simply learning how to distribute and things like that is such an amazing skill, and things like compounding, only if used correctly. And I think it definitely is just so very important, really. It links back to what they say, like if you don't know the rules of the game, you're not even going to have a seat at the table, let alone know how to win. So it's simply about, like you said, going to a place like Borg University, where then able to learn the 6 key things so that you're able to then position yourself the best way possible, so you're able to do a lot more than take on life.
Right. You know what it does, if you're familiar with going to school at a university level, you know, you go into a classroom like I used to have, where you have, you know, 3 whiteboards or sometimes 2. But in my case, I wanted 3. One whiteboard would have what's in the book, the theory that you've been taught by a book, okay, by someone who most likely is a professor who never really worked a day in his life, but has been teaching all his life. So he can be pretty good at just teaching. But then some professors come in with some experience, like myself, where that second board can say, well, here's how it looks in the real world. But then there's a third board that some of us, you know, only know if we've been consulting, we've traveled the world, we've seen different things, we've been involved in more than one business, where you got to say, well, let's throw in COVID-19, let's throw in a strike, let's throw in, you know, an economic situation. How does it work? So as a professor, I would roll up my sleeves, get my stool, get in the middle of my students, and they all knew what time it was. It was time for Doc to show us how to solve a problem. And that's what I feel is my specialty, Trayshawn. And what Borg University's profession will be is that they can take a problem and look at it and give options to solve it. No one problem is the same, but recognizing a problem for what it is and then saying, hey, let's tackle it, roll up our sleeves. Let's use communication. Let's use negotiation. Let's listen. You know, let's use the business savvy. Let's use financial strategies all together to solve a problem. That's what we'll be doing. We won't be saying teaching book sense. We're going to teach common sense and business cases. Where over the 11 years that I built this up, I've probably seen 10,000 situations where every solution is different. And so can you imagine the possibilities of being able to be skilled enough, not to know how to solve the problems, but knowing the resources to find the answers.
Exactly.
What better way? He said, wait a minute. I saw this one in one of Dr. Bailey's pods. This is similar to this case. And then what they'll get will be a book that will show cases, things that we can and can't do, ways that you can make a decision in 1 minute. There was a book called The 1 Minute Manager made for CEOs. But now I'm going to give a book or resources for consultants, for project managers, even for businesses, to make decisions for themselves based upon my experiences, my background, my case studies, and be able to pass my DNA from myself to my students.
That is amazing. Like for me, that pretty much sums up wisdom as a whole, really. Just like being able to combine both the theory and the practical, because then you simply have a wider sort of perspective on the whole scenario as a whole. And I think it's definitely just important, especially just like knowing and looking back on things that have happened in the past and simply turning problems into opportunity as a whole is just something that is so amazing, but yet so few people actually know how to do so. Yeah.
Well, you know what? You can look at it as academia, you know, the Ivy League schools, the Yales, the Cambridges, they'll teach you book knowledge, you know, out the yin, and you walk out with a degree. But guess what? Some company that wants you still has to brainwash you completely into what they want you to do, you know, with that degree. But then once you get that degree, you know, 5-10 years later, you're finally making a respectable salary. But how can you go from start to finish, to shortcut and short circuit all of that schooling, all of that actual training, and get real life situations? Because many people that go to school and go to work for a big company, it takes them years to get real experience. But can you imagine, you know, having experience tied into a bottle, into documentation that allows you to short circuit all those things that, hey, we don't want you to solve the problem. We want you just to be able to be smart enough to listen and identify the problem. Bring that project to the table. Let others in the Borg team solve it and finish it. And guess what? We all share in the feast of getting paid. And so what we're doing, believe it or not, is creating a whole global generation, you know, a grassroots generation of smarter, more efficient, you know, soldiers, consultants, whether they work for Borg or whether they work for themselves or whether they work for someone else. I guarantee you, once they take these courses for under $3,000 total, they will be a smarter, more efficient, aggressive person knowing more about business, finance, communication, negotiation, leadership, and technology.
That is simply remarkable. And I think like today has brought so many things to mind. And like just like what you said just now about like bringing the problem to the table and actually distributing that, it links back to another quote yet again about simply it's not about being the jack of all trades and master of none. It's about mastering your field and then distributing it to others who can then use what they've mastered in that thing, that area of expertise for them, and simply passing it around until that problem is then solved.
There you go. You become part of a resource team, not a local team, but a global team. Can you imagine the possibilities of every African country, 54 of them, having someone that can represent their projects, their unique economic situation, their unique capabilities of producing? We have so many resources from different countries. You know, you got timber, you got wood, you got gold, you got diamonds, you've got so many different things. Every country has a different set of resources. Why not have people that young or old can recognize those resources, identify them, and not try to do that themselves, but bring it to the Borg feast table. And we see what options they can have so that they can generate money for themselves and generate money for the feast table for Borg, and all participants get paid. No one coming to the Borg table will not get fed. But you got to come to the table with something. You can't come to the table with nothing. You come there with a project, you come there with an opportunity, you will get fed.
That is absolutely amazing. Talking about getting fed, why don't you share with the listeners what Borg is doing in St. Nevis.
Oh, good. Well, it's really St. Kitts, but they're the same. They're twin islands. Now, my neighbor island, St. Nevis, believe it or not, my neighbor is Bill Gates. He owns the Four Seasons Hotel in Nevis. St. Kitts and St. Nevis is part of a dual island, country called St. Kitts Nevis. Same government, but 3 miles apart. Borg is creating a resort, a hotel, and a marina, and its bank will be there at the same time. And amazingly, I don't know if you knew this, Trayshawn, or your audience, that the island of St. Kitts is 93% Black. Can you imagine the migration of Africans of descent going to the Caribbean islands? And what this really means is that Borg will now make a strong statement by having a commercial bank there. Well, we'll be able now to move the riches and resources from Africa, not to Saudi Arabia, not to Switzerland, not to Belgium, not to China, not to France, but now it can bring its resources to a Black-owned island with a Black-owned bank. They can now leverage our assets to benefit not just the island, not just the African, but the entire diaspora, around the world. So you get out what you put into it. You bring resources to the table, again, we'll leverage it and we'll share it. All the projects that Africa wants to have, they can do it now and control it themselves. Instead of having to have a loan, and if they miss a payment, that foreign country comes in and takes over that power plant, takes over that hotel, takes over that shopping center, takes over, that structure, because they couldn't pay their bills. Now we can own our own, control our own, and continue to use Borg as the investment partner that can raise new money for even new projects.
This has been absolutely amazing. For the last question, where can the listeners find you, your products, services, and including Borg University, of course?
Well, it's ever changing. Believe it or not, the website is actually about 2 years old. We got to change it because we just growing so crazily. But keep looking at www.borgglobal.com or www.borginvestmentbank.com. And in the very near future, and I'll let you know, Trayshawn, they can be able to log on to www.borguniversity.edu or .com. And of course, once classes start, you'll know that, and we'll be able to even offer, one or two of your listeners either a subscription, for listening in on some of the free lessons, or a scholarship or a subscription to one or two of the leadership courses. So what this will do is tease your audience to know that this is truly real, and this truly can be part of something that is guaranteed to change their lives. It'll guarantee it either personally, in their existing business, in their newfound business, or even in their own dream of doing their own project, somewhere in the world.
This has been absolutely amazing today. I'm glad to be an ambassador for this. And yeah, it's been absolutely amazing. I really would like to thank you for coming on the show today.
Right. And you're doing exactly what you want to do. And my last 4 words are, we are the Borg. Resistance is futile. It's actually 7.
Love it. I love it. Yeah. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. As Dr. Bailey said, please do head over to those websites, and I hope to see you guys next time. That's it from me.
Thank you. Take care. Bye now.